The quiet break in her voice as sun was setting on the studio lot, casting long golden shadows across the floor. The day's shoot had just wrapped, and most of the crew had already started packing up. Laughter echoed from the other end of the set as people joked and celebrated the final scene of the day, but near the back, where the lights no longer reached, Ana de Armas sat alone behind a giant prop, her face turned away from the world. She thought no one could see her. Her hands were trembling, her breath was uneven, and even though she tried to hide it, the tears had already started falling soft, silent, and steady. Just moments before, she had smiled for the cameras, delivered her lines perfectly, and even shared a lighthearted joke with the director. But as the cameras stopped rolling, something inside her collapsed. The pressure had built up for days. Stress, the loneliness, the fear of not being good enough. It had all become too much. Ana had always been strong. People saw her as confident, graceful, and composed. But what they didn't see were the nights she couldn't sleep, the moments when her heart raced for no reason, and the thoughts that whispered she might never be truly accepted in this industry. What she didn't know was that someone had seen her. Keanu Reeves had been walking toward his trailer, his bag slung over his shoulder, when he noticed the faint movement behind the spotlight. Something didn't feel right. He slowed his steps and turned his head slightly. His gaze landed on Ana, curled in on herself, wiping her cheeks quickly, hoping no one would notice. He could have walked away, could have respected her space and left her alone. But something about her stillness struck him deep. It reminded him of a time years ago when he too had hidden behind a set piece, pretending everything was okay when it W descent. So Keanu changed direction. His footsteps were slow and careful, not wanting to startle her. He approached quietly, stopping just a few feet away. For a moment, he said nothing. He just stood there, allowing his presence to be felt without forcing it. Ana noticed the shadow near her. Her breath caught, and she quickly wiped her eyes, trying to compose herself. "I'm sorry," she whispered, not even looking up. "I just needed a minute." Keanu sat down on the floor beside her, not too close, but close enough for her to feel that she wasn't alone. "You don't need to apologize," he said gently. "Not here, not to me." The quiet hung between them. The noise from the rest of the set seemed to fade away. Ana finally turned her head, just enough to glance at him. Her eyes were red, her voice still, shaky. "I didn't want anyone to see me like this. It's stupid." "It's not stupid," Keanu said. "I've been there, more times than I can count." She gave him a puzzled look, not because she doubted his words, but because it was hard to imagine someone like him, calm, wise, respected, ever being in that place. "You?" she asked softly. "Me," he nodded. "Behind the first trailer I ever worked on, in a hotel room during a press tour, once in a bathroom during a movie premiere. No one knew. I didn't want them to know. But the truth is, it's human." Ana took a slow breath. There was something healing in hearing that from him. It didn't erase her pain, but it made her feel less alone in it. "I'm just tired," she said finally. "Tired of pretending to be okay. Tired of smiling when my heart feels heavy. Everyone thinks I'm strong, but some days I'm just trying to make it to the end without breaking." Keanu leaned back against the wall, his voice soft and steady. "You don't have to carry it all by yourself. You're not here to prove anything. You're here because you love what you do. When it gets too heavy, it's okay to ask for help, even if it's just someone to sit with you in the dark for a little while." Ana didn't say anything at first. But then, her shoulder dropped just a little, her jaw unclenched. She wasn't fine, not yet, but something had shifted. Two of them sat there in silence for a while. The crew had mostly left. The lights were turning off one by one, but neither of them moved. After some time, Ana broke the silence. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" Keanu asked gently. "For not walking away." Keanu looked at her with kindness. In his eyes, sometimes the quietest cries are the ones we need to answer the most. Ana nodded slowly. She didn't have all the answers yet, but in that moment, she had something just as powerful, a sense that someone truly saw her. And that was the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted, something that would test them, change them, and teach them what real strength looked like. Whispers that stay in the hearth. Next morning on set, the sun was bright, and the mood felt light again. Makeup artists chatted as they set up their kits. Assistants ran back and forth with coffees and clipboards. The director barked orders into a walkie-talkie while camera operators adjusted their gear. Anna walked in quietly, wearing sunglasses, a soft scarf around her neck, and that same careful smile she wore every day. No one could tell anything had happened the night before. No one except Keanu. He noticed right away, not the way she walked or the way she looked, but the way her energy shifted when she thought no one was watching. A small pause before she stepped in front of the lights. A quick breath when someone called her name too suddenly. It's the kind of signs only someone who had felt it before would ever notice. Keanu didn't say anything that morning. He didn't need to. Simply gave her a small nod across the room, one that meant, "I'm here." And somehow, that was enough. Anna's first scene of the day was emotional. She had to deliver a monologue that required vulnerability and sadness. And for a moment, she thought she wouldn't be able to pull it off. Her voice cracked on the first take. The crew got quiet. The pressure was building again. But then she looked just beyond the camera. Keanu was there, sitting quietly, waiting for his own scene. He didn't say a word, just looked at her with calm, steady eyes. And in that moment, Anna remembered the night before. It's the quiet comfort of having someone sit with her in the dark. The feeling of not having to pretend. She took a breath. Her hands stopped shaking. And on the second take, she delivered her lines with more truth than she ever had before. When the director yelled cut, even the crew was silent for a few seconds. Then came the soft claps, then louder ones. Anna stood there, slightly dazed. She wasn't acting. Not really. She was just letting herself be real. Later that day, while waiting between scenes, Anna walked over to Keanu. She was holding 2 cups of tea. "One of these has sugar. One doesn't," she said with a soft grin. "I don't know which is which, so it's a gamble." Keanu chuckled. "I like that. Keeps things interesting." They sat down in a quiet corner of the set, behind the fake brick wall of a prop building. The kind of spot no one paid much attention to. "You helped me today," Anna said quietly. "You helped yourself," Keanu replied. "I just reminded you that you could." Anna looked down at her cup. "I used to think showing emotion made me weak. Now I think hiding it all the time is what really drains me." Keanu nodded slowly. "It does, 'cause you start living for everyone else's comfort instead of your own truth." For a few minutes, they sat there, sipping tea, not talking. The silence between them wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful, warm, safe. And then Anna asked a question she hadn't planned to. "Have you ever lost someone who made you feel seen?" Keanu didn't answer right away. Stared into his cup for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and steady. "Yes, more than once." Anna waited. She didn't push. She just let the moment breathe. "My sister," Keanu said. "She was sick for a long time. Even when she was in pain, she always saw me. Not the actor, not the man on posters, just me. After she passed, I felt like I had to be strong for everyone else. But inside, I was falling apart." Anna's eyes softened. "I'm sorry. It's okay," he replied. "It's part of life. But every now and then, you meet someone who reminds you that it's okay to feel, to be human." Anna looked at him closely, her voice soft. "You're that person for me right now." Keanu gave her a small smile. "Then we're even." Next few days on set, something began to change. They didn't spend every moment together. They didn't suddenly become inseparable. But there was a quiet connection between them, something unspoken yet deeply felt. A look across the room when one of them seemed off. A shared laugh when no one else noticed the joke. A deep mutual respect that needed no explanation. And slowly, people began to notice. The director pulled Keanu aside one afternoon. "Whatever you're doing," he said, "keep doing it. Anna's been delivering some of her best work. I've never seen her this in tune with a role." Keanu didn't take the credit. He just nodded. She's finding her truth. But not everyone was pleased. One of the producers, a sharp, impatient man who was always chasing deadlines and numbers, noticed the change too. But instead of seeing growth, he saw risk. He didn't like how often Anna and Keanu were talking. Quietly, he didn't like how unpredictable emotions could be. Keep them focused, he told the assistant director. This isn't a therapy session. It's a film. The assistant nodded, but he wasn't sure how to say what he felt. That maybe the film was getting better because it had finally started to feel real. On the 6th day of shooting, Anna walked into the studio early. It was still dark. The crew hadn't arrived yet. She wasn't scheduled to be there that early, but she couldn't sleep. So she came to the place that had unexpectedly become her quiet space. As she walked past the empty props and silent cameras, she found a folded note taped to the back of her chair. It wasn't signed. It simply said, "You are more than the spotlight. You are the light itself. Don't let the noise dim you." She read it 3 times, and for the first time in a long time, she smiled without forcing it. She didn't need to. Guess who left it? And somewhere nearby, Keanu sat alone with his tea, watching the sunrise through a narrow window. He wasn't trying to save her. He was simply doing what no actor ever did. He was seeing her not as a co-star, not as a performer, but as a person, and that was just the beginning. The day she almost walked Agwe B, the 3rd week of filming, everything seemed to be going well on the surface. The production was on schedule. The scenes were coming together beautifully. Na's performance had reached a new emotional depth, and people on set whispered that this could be her best work yet. Keanu, as always, was calm, steady, and deeply focused. But under the surface, something was building, quiet, slow, and dangerous. Anna had started having nightmares again. Sharp images that flashed behind her eyes the moment she closed them. A door slamming, voices shouting, cameras flashing in her face. Her heart racing, as if something terrible was just around the corner. She would wake up sweating, her hands trembling. And each morning, she told herself to push through. She told herself she had to be strong. But her strength was running thin. Set, she smiled. She delivered every line. But between takes, her fingers would fidget, twisting the edge of her costume. When no one was looking, she'd press her palms hard against her eyes, trying to push away the fog in her mind. Keanu noticed. He always noticed. He didn't ask questions. Instead, he waited until they were both in the makeup room, away from the crowd. "You slept, didn't you?" he asked gently, not accusing, just worried. Anna tried to smile, but it came out thin. A little. Keanu looked at her in the mirror. "You don't have to pretend with me." Her shoulders dropped. She whispered, "I think I'm breaking." Again, he placed his tea on the counter and turned toward her. "You're not breaking. You're bending under pressure. That's different." Anna's voice was barely above a breath. "What if I can't take it anymore?" Keanu didn't rush to answer. Instead, he gently reached into his jacket and pulled out a small folded paper. He held it out to her. "Read this later," he said. "When you're alone?" She looked at it, confused. "What is it?" "Something I wrote to myself once. During a time when I almost walked away too. That day's shoot was difficult." It was a scene where Anna's character breaks down in front of her mother, a highly emotional moment. The cameras were rolling, the lights were hot, the room was silent. Anna started the scene, but something in her chest twisted tight. Her voice cracked. She stumbled over her words. The director called cut too quickly. The producer leaned forward from his chair. "We don't have time for another take." "What's going on with her?" Keanu stepped forward before anyone else could speak. "Give her a minute," he said. The director hesitated. The producer frowned. But no one argued with Keanu. Anna walked off set, her steps quick. She didn't go to her trailer. She didn't go to the dressing room. She went to the far back of the studio, to the quiet loading dock where no one ever stood. There, she pulled the folded paper from her pocket. She opened it slowly. The words were handwritten. Simple. Raw. "If today feels too heavy, remember it is only one day. You have made it through worse. You are not weak for needing rest. You are human, and that is enough." Anna sat down on the cold concrete. For a moment, she just breathed. Those words weren't grand. They weren't poetic, but they were honest. and they held her like a quiet hug. She didn't cry this time. Instead, she sat still for a while, then stood up with a new kind of strength, not loud or dramatic, it's just steady. When she returned to the set, no one said anything. She nodded at the director. "I'm ready," she said. This time, she delivered the scene in one perfect take. No one moved when it ended. Even the producer looked surprised. Keanu watched her from behind the camera, his eyes soft. He didn't clap, he didn't cheer. He just gave her a look that said, "I knew you could." Later that night, after everyone had left, Anna found Keanu sitting alone at the edge of the set, near the fake garden they'd used for a scene last week. She sat beside him. "Your words helped," she said quietly. He smiled. "They helped me once too." Anna looked at him with something new in her eyes, not just gratitude, but something deeper. "You've been carrying people for a long time, haven't you?" she asked. Keanu took a long breath.
I see.
"Sometimes. But the truth is, no one can carry someone else forever. You just stand beside them until they can walk again." Anna looked up at the studio ceiling where the lights were dim now. "Have you ever had anyone stand beside you like that?" Keanu paused. "Once a long time ago." "What happened?" They didn't answer right away. "They taught me how to be still, how to sit in pain without rushing to fix it. That's how I learned to sit with others." Anna turned to face him. "Thank you for not rushing me," Keanu nodded. "Sometimes silence heals more than advice ever could." Anna closed her eyes for a moment. She wasn't healed yet, not fully. But she was no longer drowning, and somehow Keanu had made space for her pain without making her feel broken. The next morning, Keanu found a note on his chair. It said, "You didn't save me. You reminded me how to save myself. I'll never forget that." No signature. But he didn't need one. He folded the note and placed it in his coat pocket, right next to the one he'd given her, because sometimes the words we give away come back to us in ways we never expect, and neither of them knew it yet. But something was about to happen that would test their connection in a way neither of them saw coming. The choice that could have ended it was a Friday when the call came. Anna had just finished a rehearsal. She was walking through the wardrobe section, lightly running her fingers over the fabric racks, trying to calm her thoughts. The costume team had been kind, always giving her space when she needed it. But that day, her mind was somewhere far away. Her phone buzzed in her back pocket. When she answered, her voice was light, polite like always. But within 10 seconds, everything changed. Her agent's voice was tight and serious. She had been forwarded a press leak. One of Anna's old photos was being shared online again. Not a scandal, but something sensitive. It was from her first major role, when she had been pressured into a photo shoot she hadn't fully agreed to. The studio back then had convinced her it would help her career. She had never spoken about how uncomfortable it had made her now. Years later, the photo had resurfaced, taken out of context and twisted by a blog headline. It wasn't about her work or talent. It was cruel, shallow, and made to hurt. Anna's face went pale as she listened. She couldn't even respond properly. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Her legs carried her outside, toward the far edge of the studio lot. She barely noticed the sun or the way her feet stumbled, slightly on the gravel. She reached the same quiet loading dock where she had once read Keanu's note. But this time, the words didn't come back to comfort her. This felt different. It felt like a betrayal by a world she had worked so hard to love. When Keanu found her, she was sitting on the ground, her phone beside her, her face blank. "I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice flat. Keanu crouched beside her. "What happened?" She showed him the article. He read it quietly, his jaw tightening. "They're using something from years ago," Anna said. "Something I never wanted to do. Now it's being twisted like I was ... desperate, like I don't have any dignity. It's all over the place now." Keanu looked at her, really looked at her, the tension in her shoulders, the pain in her eyes, the way her hands were clenched into fists. "You are not that photo," he said, "but the world will think I am." "Let them." Anna blinked. "What?" "Let them think what they want. That doesn't make it true. It doesn't erase your worth. It doesn't erase the work you've done, the kindness you carry, the strength you show every day." She shook her head. "It's easy for you too?" Say they love you. They don't tear you down like this. Keanu's voice dropped. They did. Many times. He sat beside her on the ground. I once lost a role because I refused to do a publicity stunt they wanted. They said I was difficult, called me cold, spread rumors about how I wasn't a team player. It hurt, not because they lied, but because for a while I started to believe it. Anna looked at him, surprised. How did you survive it? By remembering who I was, and by letting go of the need to be liked by people who don't care about the truth. Anna closed her eyes, her voice shaky. I feel small, like I have no voice in any of this. Keanu turned to face her. Then let me be your voice today. When you're ready, you'll speak again, louder than ever. For a long time, neither of them moved. Then Keanu stood, and to her surprise, he reached into his back pocket and handed her a marker. Come with me. Anna hesitated, then followed. They walked to the back wall of the set, a huge wooden panel painted like a city alley. It was going to be taken down soon to make space for the next scene. Keanu handed her the marker again. Write it. Write what? The truth? Not for the press. Not for anyone else, just for you. Anna looked at the blank wood, then with slow hands, she uncapped the marker. Her fingers trembled as she wrote, I was never weak for being uncomfortable. Was just brave enough to still show up. She stepped back and stared at it. Something inside her loosened. Keanu took the marker next. He wrote underneath hers, I'll stand with her every single time. Anna smiled for the first time that day, not because the pain was gone, but because she wasn't carrying it alone. The next morning, the article had exploded online, but so had something else. A video had surfaced, not of the photo, but of Anna's. Seen from earlier that week, raw, emotional, powerful. Someone from the crew had uploaded it quietly, and the internet noticed. Comments poured in, people praising her performance. Her depth, her vulnerability. No one even mentioned the old photo anymore, because truth, when spoken honestly, always rises above noise. By the end of the week, Anna stood on set, stronger, not louder, not harder. She walked past the same producer, who once questioned her focus. He nodded at her now, respectful. She passed by the crew, who smiled genuinely. And then she saw Keanu. He was waiting by the stage door. Hands in his coat pockets, eyes kind. She walked up to him, pulled a folded paper from her pocket, and handed it to him. He opened it. Inside were 3 lines. You didn't fix me. You stood beside me. That changed everything. Keanu read it twice, then looked up at her. He didn't say anything, but his eyes said everything. And as the studio lights dimmed for the day, both of them stood there, not as co-stars, not as celebrities, but as 2 human beings who had quietly, powerfully helped each other become whole again. What neither of them knew was that life was about to test that bond in a deeper, more unexpected way. A moment was coming that would shake both their worlds. The night the lights went out, studio was buzzing that evening. The final week of filming had begun, and everyone was talking about how powerful the last few scenes would be. The story had taken a deep emotional turn, and both Keanu and Anna were being praised quietly behind their backs by crew members who had worked with hundreds of stars before, who had never felt this kind of honesty on set. Yet, something about that night felt off. The sky was darker than usual. The air was thick, and clouds hovered low above the studio. Thunder rumbled in the distance, soft at first, then louder. Anna was in her trailer, rereading her script. She had a big scene coming up, one where her character breaks down in a storm, completely alone. The director had been careful about how it was planned. There would be rain machines, wind fans, and one spotlight capturing her every move. She felt ready, stronger than before. But a strange pressure sat in her chest, something she couldn't name. On the other side of the lot, Keanu was stretching, going through his quiet routine before his final scene of the day. He liked silence before filming. It helped him hear himself better, not his voice, but his thoughts. His assistant came over. They're asking if you're okay doing the take with the lightning machine. They want it to feel more real. Keanu nodded. If it helps the scene, I'm in. No one knew what was coming, At exactly 7:46 p.m., just as Ana stepped under the rain machine and the director called action, a bolt of real lightning struck somewhere near the power grid that supported the set. The lights flickered, the machines stopped, and within 3 seconds, the entire studio lot lost power. The rain machines froze mid-spray. The fans died. The emergency alarms stayed silent because even those had gone down. Ana stood there in the dark. Cold rain dripping from above, no sound except the wind outside. For a split second she froze. Then someone shouted, "Cut the scene!" Hold position. But panic was already creeping in. One of the metal lights had short-circuited and started to smoke. Sparks flew. Someone yelled for a fire extinguisher. In the chaos, Keanu started running toward the set. He knew Ana was alone under that rig. Though it had been carefully built, he had worked in enough films to know when electricity fails, all things that were safe stop being safe. As he reached the stage, he saw her standing completely still under the rain frame, shivering eyes wide. Water dripped down her face, but she wasn't crying. She looked frozen, caught between fear and shock. "Ana," Keanu called. Her eyes snapped toward his voice. He didn't wait. He jumped onto the platform, reached for her hand, and pulled her gently toward the edge of the set. One of the wires sparked near them. He stepped between her and the danger without hesitation. Someone finally got the backup generator running. Lights flickered weakly back on crew members rushed in. People checked. Cables. The assistant director barked orders, but Keanu didn't let go of her hand. Not until they were both off the platform and safe behind the storage wall. Only then did Ana speak. Her voice was small. "I thought I was going to fall." "God, don't move. You didn't fall," Keanu said, brushing soaked hair from her forehead. "You stood until someone reached you. And that counts too." Ana wrapped her arms around herself. "I felt powerless." Keanu placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "You're not powerless. Even power outages pass." A medic came over and checked them both. No injuries. Just soaked clothes and some scratches on Keanu's arm from the jump. But something had changed in that moment. Not just because Keanu had run to her, not just because he stood between her and the sparks, but because when it mattered most, it didn't. Think he just moved, and she didn't ask for help, she simply accepted it. That night, the set was shut down early. The storm outside had grown too strong to continue filming. Most of the crew left. But Keanu and Ana stayed behind, drying off in the small break room near the editing suite. Keanu sipped hot tea. Ana sat wrapped in a soft brown blanket. Someone had left in a chair. Neither of them spoke for a while. Finally, Ana whispered, "Do you ever think life keeps testing us just to see if we'll give up?" Keanu looked at the steam rising from his cup. "Maybe. Or maybe it's just reminding us how strong we are. I didn't feel strong tonight. You stayed on your feet." Ana turned to him. "But I didn't know what to do. I froze." Keanu leaned forward, his voice calm and deep. "Ana, strength isn't always about knowing what to do. Sometimes it's just staying still when everything around you wants you to fall. That's what you did." She nodded slowly. Then she looked him in the eyes. "Why did you run to me?" Keanu blinked, then spoke honestly. "Because no one ran to me when I needed it. And I promised myself, if I ever saw someone standing alone like that, I'd never let them feel forgotten." Ana swallowed hard. His words reached somewhere deep inside her, and then, without thinking, she placed her hand over his quiet. "Steady. You didn't let me fall," she whispered. Keanu didn't reply. He just gave her a soft smile. A moment passed. The storm outside calmed, and in that small room without cameras or scripts or lights, two people sat together, soaked from rain, tired from fear, but closer than they had ever been. Neither of them said it out loud, but something between them had shifted. What started as quiet support was becoming something more, something unspoken, something real. But soon, one final challenge would come, a choice that would put their bond to the ultimate test. The moment that rewrote everything 3 days after the storm, studio buzzed again. The damaged equipment had been repaired. Schedules were reshuffled. Filming resumed with tighter timelines and higher pressure. The studio execs were flying in for the final scenes. Everything needed to go perfectly, but something else lingered in the air. Something quiet and powerful. People began whispering about Anna and Keanu. Not gossip, not scandal, but respect, admiration. There was a calm between them, a steady rhythm, like two people who had been through a storm together and come out stronger. Anna now walked onto set with clearer eyes. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't trying to be perfect. She was simply present, and it changed everything about her performance. The final scene of the movie was scheduled for that afternoon. It was between Keanu's character and Anna's, a farewell scene, filled with emotion. With both of them standing under a quiet night sky, saying goodbye, they rehearsed it in silence before the cameras rolled. Anna looked at Keanu. Her eyes searched his face, but something inside her hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" she said quietly. "Of course. Is it hard for you to say goodbye in scenes like this? You've had to say real goodbyes in life?" Keanu looked away for a second, thinking, "Yes," he said. "But I try to see it not as an ending, just a different kind of beginning." Anna nodded, but her chest felt heavy because she already knew what the director hadn't announced yet, that after this scene, Keanu would be leaving early. It's not just the set, the city. A private family matter had come up. He hadn't shared the details. He didn't need to. But the thought of him walking away, even for something real, something urgent, felt like more than just a goodbye. It felt like the end of something. Hadn't had the courage to name yet. When the camera rolled, it captured something beyond acting. Anna's voice trembled in the first line. Keanu's eyes were misted with emotion that didn't come from the script. They stood inches apart, looking at each other under the fake stars above. "I don't want to say goodbye," Anna's character whispered. "Then don't," Keanu's character replied. "Say thank you instead." Anna paused, then looked at him, not as her character, but as herself. "Thank you," she said softly. The director yelled cut, but no one moved. The room was still. The crew looked at each other, realizing what they had just witnessed wasn't a performance. It was real. Anna stepped back slowly, her heart pounding. She looked at Keanu, wanting to say something, anything, before he left, but he simply nodded, giving her that same soft look he had given her behind the spotlight all those weeks ago, and then he turned to go. That night, the set was quiet. Again, Anna stayed behind, wandering through the empty studio. She walked past the garden prop, the fake alley, the old storage room, each place holding a memory now. When she reached the wall behind the rain machine platform, the one where she and Keanu had once written their truths, she stopped. New writing had been added. She leaned closer to read it, in Keanu's familiar handwriting. It said, "When you no longer need someone to see you, but you see yourself, that's when you've grown." Beneath it, one final line, "I'm proud of you." Anna sat down on the edge of the platform. She didn't cry. She didn't break. Instead, she smiled, because she understood something now. Keanu hadn't just walked into her life to comfort her. He had walked in to remind her of her own strength. And when she no longer needed someone to lift her, he stepped back, because that's what real kindness does. It doesn't bind. It frees. A few weeks later, the film premiered. The audience was silent during the final scene. When the credits rolled, many stayed in their seats. Not because of the visuals or the sound, but because they had seen something rare, to people telling a story that was true. Even when the camera stopped, interviewers asked Anna how she had managed such a powerful performance. She simply smiled and said, "Someone once told me, the spotlight doesn't define you. You define the light." The interviewer looked confused, but those who knew Keanu didn't attend the premiere. He sent a short message to the team, wishing them love and peace. Anna read it twice, and though she missed him, she didn't feel lost, because the girl who once cried behind the spotlight was gone, and in her place stood a woman who had learned how to be seen, not by the world, but by herself. And she would carry that lesson for the rest of her life, forever grateful to the man who didn't try to rescue her. He simply stood beside her, and in doing so, helped her rise.